Welcome back to Fine Tooning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor, whose writings on the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and whose musings on the Mission Impossible movies you can listen to on Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. He and I are recording this week's show on Monday, November 11th, which is Veterans Day here in the States, so thanks to all of you who have served. It's been a week full of news, right, Drew?
Yes. News that is good, news that is bad. It's all here, Jim.
It is.
We've had quite a week, yes.
It is, and I would imagine that one of the reasons that you, the listener, have selected this podcast today is you're looking for a bit of a break from the other news of the day. I know I certainly needed something like that last week, which is why I climbed into my car last Thursday afternoon and then drove down to New York City, and where I then, I'll tell you what, we'll get to that, what I did on the second half of today's show, but first, some animation-related news, and as always, the news portion of Fine Tooning is brought to you by touringplans.com. If you're headed down to Central Florida anytime soon to sample one of the theme parks that can be found around the city beautiful, well, Touring Plans can help you save time. More importantly, it can help you save money. So, again, as you wander around Walt Disney World and the Universal Orlando Resort, so please check them out at touringplans.com. And as we always do with this podcast, we start with a quick look back at this past weekend's box office. And Venom Last Dance was number one at the box office, but DreamWorks Animation's The Wild Robot continues to chug along stateside, Drew. This Chris Sanders film sold $6.6 million worth of tickets domestically this past weekend, which brought its North American box office total up to $130 million. And then when you factor in the $161 million worth of tickets that Wild Robot has sold overseas, we have a worldwide box office total of $292 million. And I'm told that this film will slide past $300 million sometime toward the middle of this week. And so would you say Wild Robot is still positioned well as we are now officially in award season, right?
Oh, Jim, we're deep in awards season. At least I am. I've got awards fever. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I am very much in the mix right now, and yeah, I think it's still. I think there are other movies that have become sort of contenders too. I think we've gone down to one kind of question mark slot in the race this year.
Interesting. Okay.
I think.
Okay. Well, what would you see as Wild Robot's competition going forward here?
I think it's going to be Inside Out 2 is obviously going to be nominated. Everyone in their cat has seen it multiple times. Okay. I think now Memoir of a Snail is very much positioned to be the kind of indie slot. And I think that Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul is definitely going to be a lock in there as well.
Okay.
So I think those four are definitely going to happen. And now that fifth slot is the real question mark for this season.
Okay. And forgive me for saying this, but we don't necessarily think Spellbound is going to take that fifth spot, right?
I don't think so, but I'm talking to our dear friend Alan Menken later today, so I'm very excited about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of which, did you just see? I mean, literally just yesterday, Skydance and Netflix, evidently in response to all of the people online who were like, "Why do the trailers for Spellbound don't mention the fact that Alan Menken and Glenn Slater have written the score for this thing?" And it's literally the ad says, "You asked, we answered." So now, mind you, this dropped on Sunday, the 10th of November, 12 days before this film finally becomes available for viewing on Netflix. But did you see that?
No, that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that they're playing it up because that is. That was missing from all the marketing materials.
It was,
oddly.
Well, now speaking of marketing, we talked on last week's show about this this thing that they're running around the country. I want to say it's the Mall of America and this Spellbound thing, which I thought was going to be just inflatable versions of Princess Ilian. Am I saying her name right? The female.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
the King and Queen of Lumbria. I thought, okay, so they'd bring inflatable versions of these things to Times Square and blow them up there. And it's like, no, they didn't. Did you see what they actually did, Drew?
Well, I saw on Instagram they had like a truck that had giant inflatables on it. Right? Did you see that?
These are solid pieces of plastic. These are monster trucks. I mean, I'm almost embarrassed that I didn't put that together in advance. Of course you would have the King and Queen as monster trucks, but they rolled them right out into Herald Square. And not only that, there was supposedly a monster food truck there giving away goodies yesterday between 11 a.m. and 2:30. And I'm kicking myself that I didn't drive down to the city to check these things out.
I think you'll live, Jim. I think you'll live without having seen it. The pictures do so much,
Okay. Now, speaking of Alan Menken and Glenn Slater's score for Spellbound, you can actually hear two of the songs for this film, which again debuts on Netflix on November 22nd. On YouTube right now, you can hear the opening number for this animated feature, which sketches out how Princess Elian's parents became the way they are at the start of this movie. And then there is The Way It Was Before, which is the version of this song from the score of Spellbound that plays over the end credits, so it's done in a top 40, very contemporary style. And what's kind of interesting is in this same window of time, we saw Disney do the exact same thing with Moana 2. The song over the end credits, which I guess is called Beyond, also got dropped. In fact, I was in the car listening to the Disney Channel on Sirius XM this past weekend and got to hear this number.
I'm shocked you weren't listening to the Yacht Rock station, Jim. I thought that was more your style.
No. I have been very studiously over the last couple of days. Anything but the news, just sort of like Disney on Sirius XM. Absolutely. Let's put that on. Broadway on Sirius XM. Absolutely. Just whatever.
Whatever you can distract yourself. Yeah.
There we go.
I really like that opening number from Spellbound. I haven't listened to the Moana song yet because I don't know. I feel like it's a spoiler or something. Although, did you see they had the cast rap party the other night at the Dolby Theater, formerly the Kodak, where they host the Oscars and all that?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh. Interesting.
And yeah, our good friend Eric Goldberg was there.
Okay.
John, and John was there. Ron was not there. I don't know if that says anything, but
okay.
It was a legacy party for Moana 2, and the first time I think they screened the movie for an audience like that.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
Because I have to admit, I'm trying to go into Moana 2 as cold as I possibly can, but the problem is, I was in Target yesterday getting cat food, and I don't know who Disney paid, but the Moana 2 toys aren't on the shelves. They're literally in the middle of the aisle at the back of the store. I mean, and in fact, they're like 30 feet away from the official Christmas section of the park. So Disney is not kidding around with this thing. So, and I was trying to, don't look, I don't want to know what the characters are.
Right.
But
well, it's that was the only square footage in the store that wasn't occupied by Wicked stuff. So they had to carve out a niche. They had to be the middle of the aisle, Jim.
That is a very truthful observation. Okay. So what else went on this weekend? We had our D23 event down in Brazil. Lots of animation-related news coming out of this, and not exactly new news for if you're a Drew Taylor, but we got official confirmation coming out of this event that there's an Ice Age 6 headed our way. And just kind of want to quickly sketch out where we are Ice Age-wise. This is a franchise that, when Fox was running this and having the films produced through Blue Sky, had sold $6 billion worth of tickets worldwide. We got our last Fox-produced theatrical release, Ice Age Collision Course, back in June of 2016. And then, of course, the very next year, in December of 2017, Disney announced its intentions to purchase certain film and television assets from 20th Century Fox for $52.4 billion. And of course, one of those assets was going to be Blue Sky Studios, the very place where the Ice Age movies were made. Anyone who's been paying attention to the mega merger world we live in today, things didn't go according to plan. Comcast makes a bid for the same assets, $65 billion bid in June of 2018, and to now seal the deal, Disney had to raise its bid to $71.3 billion and was finally able to complete this acquisition in March of 2019. But, of course, because they have now paid $15 billion more than they originally intended for all of this Fox stuff, Disney has to make some adjustments to its plan in order to make the numbers work. And chief among those changes was shuttering Blue Sky Studios in the late winter, early spring of 2021. And now, mind you, Disney tried to stay in the Ice Age business without Blue Sky's help. That's how we got the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild back in January of 2022. And credits for this one are kind of interesting. It is produced by 20th Century Animation and then released under the Walt Disney Pictures banner, but this 82-minute-long animated feature was not a theatrical release. It was, but rather a Disney Plus original film, strictly intended for people who subscribed to the streaming service. And Simon Pegg, who voiced that film's title character, Buck Wild, was the only member of the Ice Age voice cast, the folks who voiced the film franchise, to return for this Disney Plus project. But based on the announcement coming out of Brazil for 6, we know Ray Romano's coming back, Queen Latifah, George Leguizamo, and I'm told Dennis Leary is coming back to voice Diego. Is that what you've heard as well? Or?
Yeah, that's what I've heard, and Simon Pegg will be back as well. Mm-hmm. I think the big question is just who's doing the animation for this one.
Yeah.
Bardell did the animation for Buck Wild, which was not the best animation. I mean, they're a great studio, but it just was not up to the quality of the actual theatrical movies, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I just got the sense from that whole thing, it was kind of a we have to walk before we can run thing, and, just sort of a test or proof of concept that Disney could do an Ice Age movie. But, and by the way, for all you NPR fans out there, word of this project actually leaked out 2 months ago on an episode of Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, John Leguizamo was on the show, and evidently, as part of the show, he said, "Hey, we're getting ready to do another Ice Age movie." And for I don't know what that says about the listenership for Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, but this didn't make it out. But evidently, part of that may have been because Disney's PR team then fell on Leguizamo like wolves, and you will shut up and not talk about this till the official announcement. So, but anyway,
he's so great.
No, I love him.
He's so great as that character. Yeah.
Cannot wait for this film, which is coming out sometime in 2026. We don't have a date on this yet. Now, on the other hand,
theatrically,
well.
They said that specifically.
Yes, very much worth noting that they're coming back to theaters in 2026, a full decade after we got Collision Course. But also coming out in 2026 is Toy Story 5, which Jonas Rivera, the vice president of Pixar Animation, again at this D23 Brasil event, revealed a bit more about this next installment of the ongoing series, which will arrive in theaters June 19th, 2026. Did you see this piece of concept art that he shared with the shipping container washed up on a beach and what?
Yes, I was hoping we could talk about that.
Good,
because I guess I get that was the kind of main new bit of information that they shared was that the villains of this piece are a bunch of rogue Buzz Lightyears that have gone back to their factory settings, and that piece of art has a shipping container on a beach with a bunch of evil Buzz Lightyears pouring out of it, which is pretty funny. Yeah.
Well, I have some questions about that because, well, first of all, because you and I both went to the very same, what was it, SIGGRAPH at the Los Angeles Convention Center. This would have been 2003, 2004, where they had the artwork up for the Circle 7 version of Toy Story 3, the one that Disney was going to make on its own, and that also featured all sorts of multiple Buzz Lightyears. In fact, the gimmick or the story of that one was Buzz was malfunctioning and got recalled to the factory in Japan where he met thousands of other Space Rangers. But I think those were all nice Buzz Lightyears, right? Mostly?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that idea was so fun. We'll have to do a whole show on that.
Oh, no.
That idea at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah. They were helpful, it seemed like. I mean, but yeah, these are evil Buzz Lightyears. I don't know.
Okay. You remember DreamWorks Toy Soldiers, right?
Small Soldiers.
Small Soldiers. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. And that was Joe Dante, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I kind of interesting, given that everyone thought that film was going to be huge and didn't connect. So already this film, this Toy Story 5, had an interesting sort of storyline to pursue, the whole toys versus tech thing. But now a gang of evil Buzz Lightyears. That's an interesting choice. Is there anything you could share with the class?
I don't have any inside information. I've heard that the script is really, really great.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I think the toys versus tech thing we have covered a little bit in the Christmas special, the Toy Story That Time Forgot, if you'll recall.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested to see what new spin they'll have on that.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm ready. Listen, a new Andrew Stanton movie, count me in.
Okay.
I'm there.
That's also okay. Thank you for throwing me a life preserver. I had forgotten that Andrew is directing this. Okay. All right. Andrew won't make the mistakes of Small Soldiers. That we kind of have some confidence here. Okay. I want to remind you that again we're here in November of 2024, specifically the week of November 11th through the 15th, when we could obviously all use a little more whimsy and sweetness in our lives, which is why thank you, Drew, for pointing out that the trailer for The Night Before Christmas in Wonderland dropped this week. The thing that debuts on Hulu on Friday of this week, the 15th. And this is based on the Karis Bexington book from 2019. Do you want to share the log line on what this is about?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that Santa decides to go to Wonderland, the Alice in Wonderland. And it looks I thought it just looked wonderful. Gerard Butler is playing Santa Claus.
Yep.
Emilia Clarke is the Queen of Hearts. And it's by the director of The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, the short film that I believe won.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think it won the Oscar a few years ago.
Yeah, no, that looked wonderful.
Yeah. So it's got a good pedigree. It's interesting that it's a Universal Pictures production, but it's arriving on Hulu and not Peacock. But yeah, it looks really wonderful. I cannot wait. Did you like the? I thought the animation style, I thought everything about it was just great.
Well, and I have to admit, I had missed Gerard Butler as an animation voice. I mean, I loved his work as Hiccup's dad in the How to Train Your Dragons movies, and I love the premise of this, that Saint Nick receives a delayed letter on Christmas Eve from the Princess of Hearts, and so he goes to Wonderland to just, I missed this. I've got to address this, not realizing that it is many years later, and now the mean and miserable Queen of Hearts hates all things Christmas. So, no, it just...
oh, that's great. That's really fun.
Yeah.
And you know that Gerard Butler will be back as Stoic in the live action How to Train Your Dragon, which we have not seen anything from. It comes out in June, and we have not seen anything about it. So hopefully soon we will be getting our eyes on a...
I hope so.
Because you saw they showed a new piece of concept, or a new shot of Stitch.
Thank you.
The live action
Thank you
Stitch.
again for mentioning that coming out of Brazil. And yeah, Stitch there on the bed with, I want to say, wearing a lei or something like that. And speaking of, again, getting additional footage about things that Disney is sending down the pike, we got our final trailer for Mufasa the Lion King, and I guess now we understand what the stakes are and who's actually in this thing. And previously we had been told young Mufasa and Scar, but under a different name. I'm blanking what he's called before he becomes Scar.
Oh yeah, that's one of the weirder parts of this Mufasa saga, is that I always thought that they were actually part of a lineage, like a royal family, but instead they are just random lions, I guess. But yeah, it's I'll look up the name of that character.
Okay.
It is Taka.
There we go.
A lion who later becomes Scar, and he is voiced by Kelvin Harrison Jr. And of course, Mufasa is Aaron Pierre from the great Netflix movie Rebel Ridge. Jim, if you haven't seen it, it is wonderful.
Okay, we'll check that.
Yeah,
but we have since learned, especially with this final trailer, that this is where we see Mufasa meet Sarabi for the first time, and likewise, they get the band back together in that. Rafiki and Zazu are also a big part of how what we eventually came to see in the Pride Lands came to be. So,
including how it looks like you see how Pride Rock actually is formed, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's like so these lions know how to make plastic explosives. Is that
Yeah, I mean, listen. They're up to some stuff, Jim. I also wanted to point out for the animation fans out there, obviously, that Keith David and Anika Noni Rose actually play Mufasa's biological father and mother. So a nice little Princess and the Frog reunion there.
Wow.
God knows Keith David is getting kept out of all the Princess and the Frog fun.
Yeah.
Including, did you see they announced all the villains that are part of the new Villains Land, and he's not there?
Again, I think Len is the one who always this time of year insists on no negative November. But yeah, I have to admit, I looked at that list and it's like, really? Those are the 13 villains you chose? So, all right. Anyway, getting back to animated animals. Pivoting now to Zootopia 2, which will arrive in theaters in like a year and 2 weeks on November 26, 2025. We learned that Shakira will be returning to voice Gazelle in Zootopia 2. And we were just talking about Wicked taking over Target. And folks, that's a year-long occupation, because Wicked Part 2 is supposed to open in theaters on November 21st of next year. So, yeah, Wicked ain't going away anytime soon. What did you think of the stuff coming out of D23 Brasil in regard to hoppers?
Yeah, I think they showed a little bit more footage than we got at D23 Anaheim. I mean, Hoppers is like my most anticipated Pixar movie. I just think it looks so fun and weird in the best possible way, and with such amazing character design. Of course, you're going to get that with the guy that created We Bare Bears, directing and writing. But I've heard the script is hilarious, and we finally get to see the royal kingdom of beavers, Jim, that we always knew was there. We suspected, but now we're going to really see it.
I know so little of this movie, and I'm very, very much looking forward to it. But at the same time, what is it? Next month, we finally get the 4 episodes of Dream Productions, which they also hyped at D23 Brasil, and then Win or Lose, that's early 2025, right? That's when that drops.
Yeah.
And that's 8 episodes there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Finally ready to close the circle that started when I saw one of the episodes in 2023 at Annecy, Jim. So yeah, let's get these out. Okay. I'm ready for both. I got to talk to Mike Jones a little bit at D23, just at the Pixar booth, about Dream Productions, and it sounds absolutely wonderful. And of course, I'm very much into Win or Lose. So bring them on, Jim.
Okay.
We need them.
Okay. Well, speaking of bringing it on, after this break, we're going to come back. And Drew's going to talk about the most expensive animated series produced to date. Is that the case, really?
That's what they say.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that info in a moment. But first, this. And we're back. Okay, so Drew, talk to me about Arcane, because how has this one gotten by me, especially given the price point for this project?
Have you not seen any of it yet?
Seriously, I live in the woods of New Hampshire. People very rarely wander up on my deck and go, "Hey, look at this." Well,
it's based on the League of Legends video game series. It's absolutely beautiful. I moderated a Q&A at the world premiere for season 2 just a couple of weeks ago at the Egyptian Theater, Jim, which if you think is not a daunting task, let me tell you, it is. But yeah, it's an amazing series, and it's feature quality animation for sure on a weekly streaming basis. And I always wondered how much that thing cost, especially because the first season was, I think, in development for 6 years. And this new season, which starts this weekend, which is fabulous, was another 3 years in development. Wow. So, and now, thanks to a great variety story, which I give a lot of credit to, they have the price point at about $250 million for the 2 seasons, which is only 18 episodes total. Whoa. So yes, this is the most expensive animated series of all time, and it's great. You gotta catch up.
Okay, I will. I forgive me for being blunt here, but do we see the money up there on the screen, or?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. I mean.
Okay.
Jim, you will love the animation style, which kind of it harkens back to the video game roots, but the animation is just so fluid and beautiful, and it's embellished by 2D effects, which are just, it's just amazing. It's sort of a style that What If has kind of adapted as well, which we are getting the 3rd season of that this year as well. But you have to watch, Jim. It's just your eyes will pop out of your head.
All right, I will do that and schedule an appointment with the optometrist immediately after that. Okay, another story that Drew unearthed in regard to Tony Bancroft, the co-director of Mulan back in 98 or thereabouts, who is preparing another project that takes part in a far-flung area. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it is being produced by an Indian animation studio called Toons Media, TOONZ.
Okay.
The log line is... It's called Mini Bots, I should say that.
Okay.
And it follows 3 young geniuses at a summer robotics camp. Their creation of sentient mini robots leads to chaos and heartwarming moments as they race against time to protect their playful but troublemaking mini bots from a powerful tech company determined to take control of these remarkable inventions. So it is a truly global production because Toons Media is working alongside a UK studio called Evolutionary Films and an American studio called Mojo Global Arts.
Oh, I guess what I find especially intriguing about this is that I want to say in the mid 2000s, I was out in LA and visited the Bancroft brothers at their studio. And at that time, Tony was in the process of developing an animated feature about Marco Polo that he was looking to get produced by a Chinese animation company. So, kind of interesting,
Yeah.
To be collaborative.
Well, he co-directed that Animal Crackers movie a few years ago. Remember that?
This is true.
Yeah.
Yep. Which actually has some surprisingly good stuff in it as well. But speaking, again, Marco Polo, speaking of people who travel a great distance, Drew, this past Thursday, inside of 13 hours, I put 600 miles on the car. But let me start with a question here. Have you ever, again, I know you spent a lot of time in Connecticut. So did you ever make it across the border to the New York Botanical Gardens?
I've never been to New York Botanical Gardens, and that's why I'm so excited to hear your book report here.
Yes. There we go. Okay, well, in the true book report tradition, some pointless facts. The Botanical Gardens, established in 1891, it's located on a 250-acre site in the Bronx. Has over 1 million living plants growing there, and it's just across the way from the Bronx Zoo, which, to be honest, is something I've been trying to get to for 30 plus years. But I had, by the way, previously been down to the Botanical Gardens. I was there in 2018 in January. I should have been freezing, but I spent that day inside of the Enid A. Haupt Conservatory, which is this giant greenhouse that looks like the Crystal Palace, that has all of these different habitats inside. It was warm, it was green, it was lush. It was a great place to visit in the depth of winter and remind you, okay, spring will eventually get here. And same thing in real life here. Now, last Thursday night, I drove down from New Hampshire with my niece Gia, her friend Casey, and Florence Lang, one of my oldest friends on the planet. And we deliberately timed things so we'd get at the garden after the sun had set, and parked across the street at Fordham University. And so what's the point of going to a botanical garden after dark? You can't obviously see the plants. But the thing is, we weren't there for greenery. We were there for black and gray and white. And we were there for Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas light trail. Which, Drew, is this interesting collaboration between 4-time Tony Award-winning producer Jeffrey Seller. He's the guy who had a hand in the success of Rent and Hamilton, Avenue Q, and In the Heights, and a company called Let's Go, which is a Madrid-based creative team that, by the way, if you want to see something strange, go Google the name Tim Burton's Labyrinth. It's a traveling interactive art display that's based on Burton's body of work. It'll be opening in Milan, not Mulan, next month. And we'll be entertaining Tim Burton enthusiasts in the area through March of 2025. But anyway, back to the light trail. It was presented in special arrangement with Buena Vista Theatrical. Kind of hard to describe, Drew. It's an outdoor adventure that's been set up in this section of the Botanical Gardens, chunk of space between Daffodil Hill and Fordham Road. And here, in a section of the park where 100-year-old trees tower over you, you walk through this fog-filled forest where you then encounter these life-size 3D printed sculptures of many of the characters from that stop-motion movie, which were cool. But I'm not going to lie to you, Drew. The thing that impressed me the most is they have this amazing lighting package for the light trail event. They light up the forest behind these figures, and there's a lot of interactive video projection or intelligent LED lighting, and coupled with carefully selected snippets from Danny Elfman's score for Nightmare. It creates an experience that animation fans, Tim Burton fans, are just going to love. And you start off your outdoor adventure by walking through the mouth of this giant 30-foot tall jack-o'-lantern that's made out of orange plastic. And you then slowly move along this nearly mile-long trail and see 19 different sculptures of characters like Sandy Claus and Oogie Boogie and Lock, Shock, and Barrel, and had some really clever use of projected effects. I mean, for example, at one point you encounter the two-faced mayor of Halloween Town, and as you're standing there, his face seems to randomly rotate between his cheerful and fearsome face. But what's kind of cool is directly behind him, and we're talking like 100 feet deeper into the forest, projected on trees directly behind the mayor, you get this sort of kaleidoscopic effect where one moment you're looking at Jack's howling face, and then the next moment Oogie Boogie forms and begins to laugh with menace. And again, because this is, of course, something built in 2024, Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas light trail, designed with social media in mind. So the sculptures are right there at the edge of the trail. So if you like, you can get online and get your picture taken with your favorite nightmare character looming up just behind you. And the night we were there, the most popular sculpture on the light trail appeared to be one of Jack Skellington and his ghost dog Zero. That was the longest line of the night. But I just wanted to share this because, again, this is Thursday, 2 days after the election, and I have to say that the people there that night were the happiest, most polite group of New Yorkers I have ever encountered. I mean, people, whenever we were online, were constantly offering, oh, do you want to get your picture taken? Give us your iPhone. You pose there. We'll do this. They were genuinely sweet. So, only took like 45 minutes to complete the trail. We were back at the entrance exit to the light trail, which, by the way, for any of you who've been to the gardens, maybe with a school group back in the day, the entrance exit is located at the Everett Garden Gate, which is where school groups typically come in and out of the Botanical Garden. And there was a refreshment stand set up offering seasonal treats like hot chocolate and cider donuts, and not to mention well-lit, close-by restroom, good for people my age. And but here's the thing, Drew, and again, remember earlier on in the show we were talking about how the Moana 2 merch was positioned in the middle of the aisle at Target. So again, Disney is a master when it comes to merch, but there was nothing for sale at the light trail. Not a t-shirt, not a sweatshirt, not a coffee mug. And when you think that Disney has been selling Nightmare merch since 1993, it was one of these things where it's like, this thing got announced back in August, or officially announced in August of this year. So it was in the works months before that. But no merch, zip, nada. And it wasn't a case of that it had sold out, because this is a 9-week only event and it started back on September 27th. But nothing.
That's bizarre, especially because I feel like there's always somebody who's cold. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, yeah.
No, that's it exactly. You could, in fact, that when we, as we close out the story, I want to talk about if you're looking to do this, and again, it runs through November 30th. That if you decide to get tickets to this timed entry event, I was going to tell you, wear comfortable shoes, dress appropriately, because it can get a little cool down there in the forest. But this, like I said, this continues to run Thursday through Sunday, right up until 2 days after Thanksgiving this year, and ticket prices run.
Oh, they should let it go to Christmas. Come on.
Well, I think the concern is that it eventually, I mean, mind you, much like what you guys have been enduring out in California, we've had weird weather here back in New England as well. I mean, middle of last week, it was November and 80 degrees out here, and that just doesn't happen. And I think they artificially, or based on previous weather patterns, that's why they decided to shut it down on November 30th because they were figuring historically snow starts to fly starting on the first week of December. And this is a walking experience. And just having to sand and salt and shovel the path would be challenging. But yeah, let's see. Tickets run $39 to $55 a piece, depending on the day, and or if you want to take advantage of the flex option, which means you don't have a limited entry time, but you can go at any time. And parking actually was relatively easy. We parked right across the street in the overflow parking lot at Fordham University, just $22. And I want to say we got there right at 6:30, and by 8 o'clock we were headed back home. And it was well worth the eventually 600 mile round trip. But but again, just have to say, Drew, as impressed as I was with these 3D printed life-size sculptures of the Nightmare characters, it was the lighting package. Whoever came in there and clearly spent days and days lighting up this corner of the New York Botanical Gardens did a spectacular job. I mean, it is worth the price of entry just to see what they did there. And beyond that, going to be interested to see if this comes back in 2025. There was a very healthy crowd for a Thursday night when we were there, and I'm told that dates on Saturdays and Fridays and Saturdays have sold out for the rest of the month. But again, this 9-week-long experience officially wraps up on November 30th. So you got 3 weeks left. And again, they bring it back next year. Hey, how about some merch? Okay. So anyway, if you're headed down to the New York area and you're looking for something to do with your family, other than, of course, going out to see Wicked or Moana 2, be sure and check this out. That said, it will be a long car drive. By the way, if you're looking for something to listen to on that long car drive, I heartily recommend Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, which is, of course, hosted by my co-host here, Drew Taylor, and Charles Hood. Great.
And we have a new episode out right now, Jim.
Oh!
I have to tell you, yes.
Oh!
The trailer for Mission Impossible 8, now known as Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, came out this morning.
Wow!
So we recorded an emergency pod. It's up right now, breaking down the entire trailer. So go listen to it right now.
Oh, that news makes me so happy. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
The other episodes of Light the Fuse that you have in the archive there are so worth listening to, and they make for such a fun binge listening as you're driving. But, cool, new episode. Oh, and speaking of new episodes, we have a few of them here at Jim Hill Media. We are recording this on the 11th, which is when the brand new episode of Disney Dish just dropped. That's the show I do with Len Testa. And we finally finished our El Rio de Tiempo. Did I say that right, Drew?
Oh, you're better. Yes.
Better. That doesn't say good or correct. All right.
I love it.
Okay. Yeah. A couple hours of electric shock therapy. It's amazing what you can teach somebody. But yeah, that episode finally dropped today. Recorded some brand new episodes of I Want That Too with Lauren Hersey yesterday. We'll be doing a brand new episode of Epic Universal podcast. That's the one I do with Eric Hersey, who produces this show along with David Gray. Recording that tomorrow, and on the back of that, may be doing a brand new Looking at Lucasfilm with Brian Gahn. Let's see, what else? Also, just this past weekend, we dropped our latest video in the Disney Unpacked series. This is about Africa Rediscovered, the movie that Roots author Alex Haley wrote for the never-built Equatorial Africa Pavilion that was going to go in at World Showcase. And then over the rest of this month, over on Patreon, we're going to be doing a number of stories that tie back to Oz-related stuff that almost got built at the Disney parks. And let's see, as we bring this to a close here, want to thank, again, Eric Hersey and David Gray for producing this podcast. And also would like to ask you folks to please do Drew and I a favor. If you could head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, well, not just this show, but the brand new episode of Light the Fuse that just dropped. That helps other people find the show. And let's see, Drew, that brings us to social media. So where can the nice folks find you?
Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt, jacket, whatever you want to get tailored. And Jim, what about you?
Well, you can find me on X, Twitter, Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. Okay, I think that's going to do it for this week's show, folks. So thanks again for listening to Fine Tooning, and we will be back soon.